if your movement does not include those who are literally living in housing projects, those who are on public assistance, those who are wrongfully, currently, and formerly incarcerated, those who are sex workers, those who are scammers,
those who are scammers, those who are what?
Those who are in schools taking out loans, those who are being affected by the school-prison pipeline, those who are literally victims of gun violence, those who have been the shooter as well as the victim. Your movement needs to include everybody and everything.
That's crazy.
And for me, that's what intersectionality means.
We are here live with another episode of See Through the Hype. We got a special episode here today with someone I consider a legend. Our generation's mogul, I guess you could say. He's one of the biggest leaders and activists in Queens. He loves to say youth activist. That's what he loves. He's the biggest youth activist in Queens. I like to second that. I say he's one of the biggest, regardless of age, leaders and activists and voices of Queens, New York, and New York City in general. He's an award-winning activist, getting awards from different congressmen, state senators. He fights for social justice and is a youth foster care advocate. He helped protests so big, AOC came out. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He leads big protests this summer and has done it before the whole George Floyd incident. I need everybody to make some noise for IAMQUEENS, Larry the Legend.
Oh my God.
Thank you for coming here today. I'm so happy to have you. If people knew the whole backstory of getting him here to come here and finally record, y'all would be like, dang, that's some commitment right there. So God bless you for being here and do it all. So
I'm so grateful. You got me chills, goosebumps.
And so this leads to my first question that, of course, everybody wants to know. What led you to want to be an activist and a leader for the youth and for the black community in general? What made you want to fight for, what made you want to be an activist, an organizer, and just be the voice for the underrepresented?
Interesting. Well, I feel like, the question shouldn't be what made me become an activist, but why activism chose me.
Why activism chose me.
Like, respectfully, I didn't even choose this. I grew up, I didn't want to become an activist, but because of what I've went through and the hardships that I had to go through in my life to persevere and prevail, once I had that question of, what are you going to do to change things? What are you going to do to make sure that your voice is being projected? People want to see you and respect you, not because you are singing and crying and doing the same dance, but out of admiration. I became activated.
You became
activated as an activist. And, my story speaks for itself.
You became activated as an activist.
As an activist, I became activated. Just that question. I became activated, and I began to be in spaces and, holding spaces at that and occupying spaces of making sure that all of our problems in this movement for civil rights and social justice, all of the oppression we have went through, we are going to be able to tell the story how we want to tell the story and not how somebody else feels that the story should be told. So,
that is powerful. How we get to tell the story, not someone else telling the story about how, we dictate the narrative of how. That's crazy. Yes.
And, just thank you for this platform, my brother. I am so incredibly grateful and thankful. And for those who are watching, my name is IAMQUEENS, also known
Instagram,
as Instagram is _IAMQUEENS. That's my name is IAMQUEENS. My real name is Larry Malcolm Smith Jr., but my activist name is IAMQUEENS, and that's my preferred name that I go by is IAMQUEENS. I came into activism of civil rights and social justice and the liberation for our youth, especially black youth, black indigenous people of color, through my story and through my injustice that I'm a survivor of, which is the foster care system. I've been in 23 foster homes, including a group home.
Tell us a little bit about that story of you going through the foster care system. What was it like? What was it like having a foster parent going from foster home to home? How many homes have you been to?
It's been a lot, man. I first came into the Administration for Children's Services at the age of 2 years old, and with that experience,
2 years old.
I'm now 22. I've been in foster care for 20 years of my life. Like, I've been in foster care for 20 years. I've been through 23 foster homes. I've been adopted. My adopted mother had passed away. But let me just give you, like, the whole story of what led me into foster care.
Tell us that whole story about
my father was, like, never in my life. Like, he never was there to see me become born. And my mother was battling a domestic violence relationship with him.
Oh, wow.
And in the event, my father had me in his early 50s. And, I was just so, like, stubborn and hard-headed as a baby, I want to say, because, I found out that, like, I was born the day before Halloween on October 30th, and I didn't even want to come out of my mother's, and I just, like, wanted to stay there. I didn't know why, but my mother literally had gotten her rights taken away when I was the age of 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
My mother left me in an abandoned building while she was doing drugs and alcohol, while she was escorting, and while she was out on the streets doing things that she did not want to do, but she did it because she had to find a source of income to do it and to provide and feed her family. And I was the family that she had to feed. My mother left me in an abandoned building when I was 2 years old and told her next door neighbor to watch me. And that next door neighbor literally winded up calling the 911, which is the NYPD task force in Southside Jamaica, Queens. We was literally on South Road and Foch. We was on Foch and South Road. Or it was on South Road and Waltham. I believe it was South Road and Waltham, but it had to be South Road, Foch, and Waltham, somewhere in between. I didn't know the streets exactly because I was so young. My mother, she trusted her next door neighbor to watch me. That next door neighbor winded up calling 911, and Child Protective Services of the Administration for Children, which is ACS, came in and, took me away from my mother. And my mother was arrested, and my mother had to do a drug and alcohol program
to try to come back
get her to come back to at least get through the process of getting me back. But that didn't even help because my mother actually gave up her rights, and her rights were terminated. Oh, wow. It wasn't even that she had to give up her rights because they would become terminated.
That's what I was about to say. Did she know about what could lead to her giving up her rights? Was she kind of coerced into that? Or
I believe she was coerced because you know how the system is. It's, it's built off of white nationalism and white supremacy and white ideologies and just. I believe that the system is working just fine, and they coerced my mother of giving up her rights, but what was told on paper is that her rights were terminated. And my mother, she can't even explain the story as much because she's such a clean person now. But she said to me, like, and I found my mother when I was literally the age of 20 years old in 2019 on Christmas Eve. Oh, wow. So and my mother, I recently rekindled. My mother and me, we are rekindling. We are building our friendship. My mother's been out of my life for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And she told me that she felt like it was demons in her. Yeah. Like she was walking with demons. And she wanted to get me back, but she didn't know the right way to get me back because the first foster parent I had became my adopted mother. Oh, yeah. And my first foster parent, her name was Ventura Armstrong. She raised me in Cambria Heights. And I grew up in Cambria Heights for about 11 years of my life. Oh, wow. I went to PSMS 147. I went to a daycare called Child's Educare Daycare, which is now called Excel Tiny Tots. Oh, wow. I grew up in Cambria Heights for some time, right on 219-29, 114th Road.
Well, shout out, the whole address,
Shout out to Cambria. But my hometown is Southside Jamaica, Queens. That's where my mother had me when I was 2.
Southside, we outside. That's why you always.
That's why I'm so heavy on where I'm from. But my mother made a mistake, and that mistake haunted her for the rest of her life. I want everyone to know who's listening that foster care children are being placed into foster care because of the mistake that a family member can make. That one mistake.
That everybody can make in general.
Can lead up to so much trauma, so much suicide,
Yeah.
so much eating disorders,
Yeah.
so much pain and abduction and sexual assault and anything you can imagine right now as a foster child. I've been through it.
So, and that brings in a great part that you're talking about this, because a lot of people don't understand that it's the one mistake, right? And a lot of people, and that's it with every system that you can kind of look at, with whether it's school, whether it's the jail system, whether it's with jobs, you get one mistake, and then people act like, you know, we don't make mistakes in life. Maybe if it's detrimental, maybe it's not so detrimental, right? And it can affect someone's life, like you as a youth foster child. And so that brings into my next question. What's the environment like growing up in a youth foster home? What is your brothers and sisters that you live in that home with like? What's your foster mother like? What's the foster home like? Especially having to go be in a house with people with past traumas like yours and like other situations that could be on a different level, like you said, with ICE getting, you know, people being released for case. So what's that whole environment like?
That environment is truly traumatizing and scary for me because, you know, I first entered care being adopted. You know, my first foster mother, you know, she adopted me when I became 7 years old, and she didn't have a backup, and she didn't think at the time, because she was old in age, she was in her mid-70s, early 70s, she didn't think to put somebody down as her backup to where when God says it's her time to go, who will take care of me?
Yeah.
Majority of her family was all the way in Georgia and Atlanta. Yeah. So when my adopted mother passed away, which she had passed away from dementia and natural causes, she didn't have a backup, and I again became this adopted child from foster care to now being into the system and starting from square one all over again.
Wow. So you're
this really was the root of why I've been in 23 foster homes. And I'm not going to picture myself as a perfect child. I'm not a perfect person.
Of course.
You know, I've learned that I made mistakes, and I'm embracing those mistakes.
You've learned you've made mistakes.
Yeah, I've learned.
That's powerful.
And I feel like I've learned that because I've seen myself grow. You know, I'm making mistakes, and I'm not afraid to make a mistake. I embrace mistakes, and mistakes make you who you are. And I feel like as an activist, you never should be afraid to fall. Like, I always try to keep myself head held high. You know, no matter how many times people have tried to condemn, denounce, or slander my name, I always find a way to just, you know what, like, push through it, like, see it through, like, persevere, prevail, uplift, stay strong, like, and that's just very what I'm so big upon. So to answer your question, every foster care home is different. You know, but the foster homes that I've been through, I was manipulated, I was abused, I ran away, and I would cut school. I would do things that a child shouldn't do, but it was because of my safety.
Manipulated.
And, you know, I'll start off with manipulation of, it's more not even just about what the foster parent is doing to the child, but really about the foster care agency and the people that are corrupted, that are serving and literally standing upon that white supremacy system of that foster care agency, which is many different agencies that are out right now. But I was a part of St. Christopher Ottilie, which is SEO Family Services, which was connected, which is where I'm a ward of estate at, of the Administration for Children's Services, which is ACS. So the people who worked for ACS and SEO Family Services, I felt like they didn't care about my safetyness. You know, I needed therapy at a young age because I was battling suicide.
They don't offer therapy
and,
to those children?
And they do. Don't get me wrong. And I had to take that therapy that was given to me while being in the foster care system. But let's keep in mind that these are people that are therapists that are still serving and protecting the system of foster care.
So they're not really trying to understand.
They're not
trying to do their little.
They're trying to just do
the system,
and just get the paperwork done and push it. I learned that being a foster care child, I'm just another number as an inmate. Like being in a correctional facility, you're just just another number like an inmate. That's crazy as a foster care child to even believe that or even think like that or feel like that. Most importantly, it's like by the people that are supposed to protect you and keep you safe. That's a crazy feeling. And it's a really crazy feeling. And that's why I said to my foster brothers and sisters that we need to know that most caseworkers are called cops. You know, and I'm so big upon.
Like you guys call them cops?
We like I call them cops.
Oh, that's
like
crazy.
You know, nothing is really confidential when you're in foster care. Let's really talk about it and really unpack it. The amount of the viciousness of trauma, of suicide, of eating disorders, of gun violence. These issues literally are not just plaguing our foster care community, but it is very like intercepted. Like it's connected. You know what I mean? We are looking at the amount of children that are coming out of cages due to ICE. And why is that?
Yeah.
Like, why is it that kids are getting locked up in cages, fighting for their lives, having to eat, poop, and sleep at?
Yeah.
And nobody's watching them or taking care of them. They're treating them like animals.
Yep.
And that's what white folks love to say, that we are animals. Yeah. It's disgusting to me. So I decided to take all of that pain, all of that trauma. My father was never really in my life. He battled a lot of drugs and alcohol too, but he was also moving weight on the streets.
Oh, wow.
So he wasn't there to see me becoming, born. But my father literally was out of my life for some time because my mother made that mistake and I got into foster care. And he couldn't really get me because he didn't even know how to be a father. He never had a son before. All his children were daughters.
Oh, wow.
So, I miss him because, my pops, he passed away on March 27th back in 2017.
God bless his soul.
And, God bless his soul. But when you don't have a father in your life and you don't have your moms, it's a big, big thing because you're in foster care and now you're looking up to strangers and having to basically lean on strangers to become your family.
Yeah.
And there was a lack of family preservation that happened to me. I just really wish that there were times where people would have just asked, "Are you okay?
Are you okay?"
Like
try to get to understand.
Try to get to understand my pain.
Everything that you're.
And that's why I'm so big upon the work that I do right now. This is a full-time job being an activist that I don't get paid for, that none of us don't get paid for. But I have to continue to stand up for what I believe in because I feel that there is another IAMQUEENS in the foster care system, and I need them to know to stay strong, to push through it, and I gotta be their voice, and I want them to know to continue to find their voice and find their purpose and live in their purpose before it's too late.
Do you consider yourself? I know you're breaking down the foster care advocate and seeing why you're a foster care advocate as you should, and you're going to change that in crazy ways. We're going to look back on this and be like, yeah, you really did that. Like, you changed the whole system. Hopefully 20 years from now, we won't think it used to be like that. He changed it. But this brings into a good point. I know a lot of times in ethnic communities and black communities, minority communities, you can say that mental health isn't talked about a lot. And I don't know, it seems like within the foster care system, that's definitely not the topic of concern, which it should be because of the people that are brought in, their past. So how do you feel about mental health within minority communities, black communities, the foster care system? Do you consider yourself a mental health advocate too? Do you deal with mental health struggles yourself? Because I know I have mental health struggles. I sometimes get a little bit depressed. Sometimes I have a little bit of bipolarism, and I have ADHD. And I know that I was always forced to therapy by people that don't understand me or know me, don't look like me. I was always forced on these meds that weren't really helping me, but really just regulating who I am. So I'm not really this person. They're just regulating who I am because they think ADHD is this, and that, and not trying to figure out how to work with it. So do you have those struggles as a youth?
Absolutely. Especially doing this work as a youth advocate and a youth activist for civil rights and social justice and a youth community organizer and a youth movement strategist. I always have to find ways to give myself self-care, and it's so hard. I'm still battling through it right now. Still going through depression right now. And I have the worst mental health that I still don't understand what keeps me going in this movement. And I realize that I'm such a fighter. I don't believe that foster care needs to be reformed. I believe that foster care needs actual housing developments of condominiums or just affordable housing or just, anything. I want to turn things and make it a luxury board, like a Monopoly game. Like, respectfully, like, my foster care brothers and sisters are dying in a state of an emergency. My foster care brothers and sisters are being killed to aging out of the foster care system, homeless. My foster care brothers and sisters are dying to gun violence. They are dying to having to go into the streets because they can't even get a job because they're charged with felonies or they're charged with misdemeanors, and they can't even live in the streets and find work and can't even, you know, be there comfortably to live there. They are continuously marginalized. They are continuously put down. So it's like, where can they go? And for me, I'm just taking all of the trauma and all of the suicide and the eating disorders and just all of that viciousness of demons that have been in me and around me, and I'm flipping that. You know, I want to be that foster care youth advocate to be in a courtroom in Albany and testify. I want to be that activist, and I'm doing it, but I want to be able to hold people accountable, like especially our elected officials who are in these inadequate government institutions, and also to those who are in positions of power who are also a part of the capitalistic establishment and also known as the Queen's Democratic Machine. You know, we don't need politicians that have been in office for over 15 plus years just to stay there. We don't need that. You're disconnected from the community. And for you to even run for office and always, you know, just run for office and forget that you work for the people. You know what I mean? Who got you there? The people don't work for you. You work for the people. So remember that the people got you in there. But for me, what's very disingenuous, and I need a lot of you guys to listen to this right now, what's very disingenuous is that if you are to be an elected official or if you are to run for office, for you to not be like Barack Obama at the youngest age of like 23 to 24 as a community organizer or an advocate or an activist or a movement strategist or finding some ways to, you know, be a voice, even behind closed doors where it's not protesting. If you are not following that lead and those ways, and you are just running for office and going into a community that you don't even know the issues of, and you cannot relate to the people in that community, it's very disingenuous and it is disrespectful and it is disgusting because I've watched elected officials come into my communities, promised us so many different things. I had an elected official that didn't even pay me. And I had to fight to get paid.
That's crazy.
And I got paid, but I shouldn't have to organize a rally, a press conference, put you on blast on social media, go to the press.
Oh, Senator James Sanders?
Yeah,
Senator James. If you guys don't know, Senator James Sanders, he was working for Senator James Sanders. He was supposed to get a $50,000 check for his work that he was doing with Senator James Sanders.
Wait, whoa, not $50,000. It's okay, but we was literally supposed to get paid $35,000 annually a year. He didn't pay me for 5 weeks of wages. Doing the math, you do $35,000 a year. You know, try to do how many hours you do. That's full time. I was working like 40 hours. You do the math and see how much money you make an hour. Around 20 to 23, 20 to 21, like around that $20 range, maybe that $19 to $23 range. More of the story is that I didn't get paid for 5 weeks of wages, and you get paid every 2 weeks. That man owed me at least close to $3,000 or like $2,500 to $3,000 of money. And the money just was used for basic necessities, you know? Like, I know you know, like, my situation, and for those who don't know, I live in a homeless shelter. I live in a runaway homeless youth shelter for young undocumented immigrants that are coming out of ICE or have been through ICE, and also for homeless youth, also for youth who have been aging out of foster care with no resources or no type of support. So this money was just used for basic necessities. This money was just going to be used to do laundry, to get a haircut, to pay a phone bill. Like, this was just basic necessities that I couldn't even get done because I was railroaded and I was manipulated and I was used by my own state senator who seen the story that I had and decided to capitalize off of my trauma to elevate his platform.
That's crazy.
And you know, for those who are watching right now, my biggest question to y'all is, what are y'all doing to elevate young people's voices? What are y'all doing to invest in our youth? What does investing in our youth look like? Because as an OG, or as an elected official, or as a youth advocate, investing in youth to me looks like entrepreneurship, building their own business, not just using them to build and elevate your platform by capitalizing off of their trauma and capitalizing off of their story. A lot of people love to ask me every day, brother, what are you so grateful for? I'm just grateful to be alive. Every single day, I'm just grateful to be alive because I know that living in this world, you just got to be so grateful and check up on the ones that you love and check up on your close friends. And you also got to pray for your enemies too because, it's so sad, but, everybody I feel like is working so hard to get where they have to get to, and there's always that one person that tries to pull you down. And
always that one person that tries to pull you down.
It's crazy. I look at success, and it's like, I just want to continue to climb up the ladder and grow. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect human being. I am truly just somebody who I feel like I own up to my own faults. And, I just look at success and I just say to myself, when I walk into a room, I'm nobody but myself. When I walk into a protest, I'm in no competition with nobody but myself. When I walk into a courtroom to testify for foster care youth, I'm nobody but myself. But my story and my humanity and my livelihood, like, myself, like,
it could be shared.
It and you said it, yes, but it could be connected, but our humanity must be recognized in this nation and in our community. Our black humanity must be recognized.
That is powerful right there.